Part 2, a new beginning. The house felt different. Empty. For the first time in months, I felt the weight of its silence pressing in on me, and I couldn't escape it. After 40 years of marriage, the place where Mary and I had raised our children, where we had spent countless evenings side by side, now seemed like a stranger's home. The scent of lavender lingered faintly in the air, an echo of a time that no longer felt real. My eyes wandered around the kitchen counter, at the dishes Mary used to leave out, at the mug that had been her favorite. All of it was gone. She was gone. I tried to breathe, to steady myself, but the emptiness clung to me like a thick fog. I hadn't expected her departure to feel like this. Not so soon. Not after everything. I had known that our marriage was faltering, but I didn't think it would end like this, with her walking out the door to be with Mr. Henderson, our son's neighbor. The thought still didn't make sense to me. I didn't know him well, but I always thought of him as a friendly face, someone who'd help out if you needed a hand with something, nothing more. But then there it was, my wife gone to him. It was like a bad dream. I sank down into one of the kitchen chairs, staring at the coffee cup she used to leave on the counter every morning. The silence between us had grown over the years, but it had been a quiet, settled kind of silence. I thought we understood each other. But then she found something more in him, and now I was left with nothing but memories and questions. The doorbell rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. I knew who it was before I even got up to answer. Sarah, my daughter. I could feel the dramatic flair in her presence long before I saw her, and when she stepped through the door, there was no mistaking the whirlwind of energy she brought with her. Her hair, purple today, of course, stood out like a beacon, and that smile, wide and confident, was full of purpose. She was on a mission, I could tell. "Don't you worry, Dad," she said, her voice bright with determination. "I'll find you someone better." I didn't know how to respond. I wanted to tell her I wasn't ready for any of that. I wasn't ready to think about anyone else. Not now, not ever. But Sarah wouldn't hear it. She never did. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, scanning the house like a detective searching for clues. Her eyes were already working, already calculating her next move. "I've already thought about it, Dad," she continued, her hands on her hips like she was presenting a grand idea. "I know just the person. You remember Lily, right? Mom's old maid." Lily, or was it Daisy? I couldn't remember. She was young, way too young, and I didn't know how Sarah could even suggest such a thing. I wasn't sure I even wanted to remember Lily or Daisy, let alone think about her as a potential partner. But Sarah was undeterred. "She's got a great energy," Sarah continued. "You need someone like her, someone young, someone who knows how to have fun. You can't just sit here and mope, Dad. You need to get out there." I opened my mouth to protest, but Sarah was already one step ahead of me. "I've set everything up," she added quickly. "You'll meet her tonight. Trust me, she'll be perfect for you." Perfect? How could anyone be perfect after what Mary had done to me? How could I just move on from that? But Sarah wasn't listening. She was already planning, already certain she knew what was best for me. And so, later that evening, Lily, or was it Daisy, arrived. She was practically bouncing as she stepped inside, all wide eyes and youthful enthusiasm. I barely recognized her. She was practically a stranger to me. And yet here she was, standing in my house, acting like she was a solution to everything. She was 20, I guess, but in my state of mind, I was unsure. She wore a bright, shocking pink dress, and I felt like I might be having an out-of-body experience. My daughter had insisted that we get married, and here I was, caught in the middle of something I couldn't quite process. The wedding, of course, was a disaster. No, that's not fair. It wasn't a disaster. It was just chaotic. Everything was over the top, everything too loud and too bright. Sarah's eccentric ideas were on full display. Mismatched decorations, an endless stream of party favors, and an impromptu conga line that I had no interest in participating in. But there I was, shuffling awkwardly through it all, trying to keep my composure as the whole thing spiraled out of control. The reception was nothing like I had imagined. Lily, or Daisy, was dancing around the room, dragging people into the conga line, insisting that everyone join in. I stood there, a spectator in my own life, as the room spun around me. This wasn't what I had wanted. I just wanted peace, something familiar, but that wasn't on the menu that day. The honeymoon was another matter entirely. I had hoped that time away from everything would give me a chance to breathe, to let the dust settle. But no, Daisy, or Lily, depending on who you asked, was not interested in relaxing. She wanted to hike, dance, ski, do anything but sit still. She was full of energy, full of life, and I was not. I was a man in his mid-60s, not a young man trying to relive his youth. The activities she suggested felt more like torture than fun, and I could feel myself growing more frustrated with each passing day. We went on a hike, and I nearly had a panic attack from the height. The day after that, I found myself screaming at eagles while Daisy danced around, laughing like she was on top of the world. I couldn't keep up, and the gap between us grew wider with each passing moment. It became painfully clear to both of us that we were not suited for each other. After a month, we both agreed it was over. There was no real fight, just a mutual understanding that we were both relieved to be free of the whole thing. I had thought that marrying Daisy or Lily, I still couldn't remember, would somehow fix things, would make me feel less alone. But it didn't. It only left me feeling more isolated, more lost than before. And then came Joan. Joan had always been part of my life. Of course. She was Mary's sister, older than her by 6 years, and always had a sharp wit and a firm grasp on reality. We had never been particularly close, but after the divorce, Joan reached out to me. At first, I didn't know how to respond. I was still reeling from everything that had happened, but Joan's call caught me off guard in a way that I didn't expect. "I need someone I can trust, Mark," she said, her voice calm but insistent. "You've always been good with finances, and I've got this estate I need help managing. I want you to come by, take a look at things. I think you could help me." At first, I hesitated. I wasn't ready for any more changes, but the idea of having something to do, something that mattered, appealed to me. Joan was a smart woman, and if she thought I could help her, maybe I was worth something after all. I agreed to visit her estate, and when I walked through the gates for the first time, I was struck by the scale of it all. The estate was massive, more than I could have imagined. There were sprawling gardens, a small vineyard, and several buildings that needed attention. Joan's late husband had built quite the legacy, and now it was hers to manage. And Joan was not a woman to let things slide. She needed someone she could rely on, and I quickly realized that someone was going to be me. We spent the next few weeks poring over financial records, meeting with contractors, and generally diving headfirst into the management of Joan's businesses. It was a world I wasn't accustomed to, but with my financial background, I adapted quickly. I started feeling a sense of purpose again, something I hadn't felt since the days before the divorce. Joan was supportive, always there to offer guidance, but she also gave me the freedom to make decisions on my own. As time passed, I found myself looking forward to our time together. Joan was a formidable woman, but she had a warmth to her that I hadn't expected. We would sit down after a long day of work, drink wine, and talk about everything from business to family to old memories. She made me laugh, and I realized that I hadn't done much laughing in a long time. One afternoon, as we were reviewing more documents, I came across a name that made my blood run cold. Henderson. My stomach clenched. Mr. Henderson, the man who had broken my world apart, was listed as a contractor for one of Joan's companies. I couldn't believe it. How had he gotten involved in this? And what was he doing here, taking advantage of Joan's estate? Joan and I arranged a meeting with him, and I knew from the moment I saw him that I wasn't going to let him get away with anything. We had the evidence, overcharging invoices, inflated fees, all of it. When we confronted him with the proof, his bravado crumbled. The man who had once seemed so confident and self-assured was now a shadow of himself, trying to deny what was right in front of him. It felt good. No, it felt great. I had finally faced him, not just for what he had done to my family, but for what he had done to me. The betrayal, the lies, it all came crashing down in that meeting. Afterward, Joan and I shared a quiet moment, sitting outside under the stars, feeling the weight of the day's events. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of relief. I never thought I'd find happiness again. I admitted to Joan that night, my voice quieter than usual. Joan looked at me, a knowing smile playing on her lips. You're not alone anymore, Mark. We make a good team. And we did. We had built something together. Something that wasn't perfect, but something real. I had found a new purpose. And with Joan by my side, I knew I was ready to face whatever came next. It wasn't the future I had imagined, but it was mine, and I was no longer afraid to step into it. Life had a way of surprising you, I realized. Sometimes, happiness didn't come from what you had lost, but from what you had yet to find. And with Joan, I was beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could find it again.